With that, let's bring in Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor and Fox News contributor. Andy, great to have you with us today. What's your headline reaction to what's going on here?
Well, I don't think that, as usual in Washington, I think it's not about what it's about. I don't think this really has much to do with the Presidential Records Act or classified information. I think they're conducting an investigation trying to tie Trump to the Capitol riot, and they don't want to come out and say that for a variety of reasons, so they use this as their pretext to conduct a search. But I don't think they're looking to prosecute. The first prosecution ever by the Justice Department of a former president of the United States on this kind of a classified information violation, which is comparatively trivial. What they're trying to do is make the January 6th case. I doubt they're going to be able to make it, but I think that's what they're trying to do.
And yet the word that has been put out, and David Spunt reported this, is that they're saying at the Justice Department that it's not January 6th related. Do you not believe that?
I don't believe that, and I don't think, Martha, that this can be separated from, the warrants, the search warrants that were done on the two attorneys who are tied to this, John Eastman and the Justice Department attorney Jeffrey Clark, who, they were searched at the end of June. Last week, we heard that they issued grand jury subpoenas, the Justice Department did, to two of the lawyers from the White House counsel's office. So, unless they think we're all crazy, these things are related to each other. And when they say that this is not about January 6th, I think what they're formalistically saying is the warrant they got was about classified information. It's not about January 6th. Yeah. But once they get in and they're authorized to search, then they can, basically grab whatever they think is relevant evidence. And if it's useful to the January 6th investigation, that's what they'll use it for.
So the reporting that we're hearing is that there was a prior investigation, and they acquired some of these documents back in June, and that some of the former president's attorneys were present, that the former president came in at one point, said hi, I guess, and left that situation. But some of what is out there is that then the communication kind of broke down after that about retrieving some further documents, and that is when the Attorney General and the Director of the FBI made this truly unprecedented decision to go in without the knowledge of the president at his residence and to start to go through his things, right?
Yes, the story doesn't make sense to me because you don't go from an amicable negotiation that breaks down to DEFCON 5, right? There's a couple of steps in between, including you're as the attorney for the government, you call up the attorney for the president and you say, I have this thing here, a grand jury subpoena. Now you have a court order to produce this information and you let them produce it. You don't have to go get a search warrant and basically break into their, I'm not saying they did anything unauthorized. I know the word raid is being used. This was a court-authorized search warrant. I'm not contesting that. But you don't go to the most intrusive method of investigation when intermediate methods would do, especially in a situation like this.
So why do it this way?
Well, I think two things. I think, number one, they're trying to project that there's feverish activity going on at the Justice Department in connection with the January 6th investigation, because there's a lot of people in the Democratic base who think that Garland isn't doing enough and he's not being aggressive enough. And they're worried that, he reaffirmed a Barr memo that suggested that there has to be high-level sign-off before they can investigate the former president. So they're trying to show that, no, we're taking this very seriously. We're investigating very aggressively. So that's number one. And number two is I think they really do want the documents because if there is something in there that advances the January 6th case, they're trying to make a case against Trump on the idea of, I don't think they can make a violent crime case, but short of that, they're trying to show that he either conspired to obstruct the count of the electoral votes on January 6th by Congress, or that he somehow conspired to defraud the United States. And what they need to show for that is that he himself knew that all the stop the steal stuff that he was spouting was fraudulent, that even he didn't believe it. So they're looking for anything that would be like a smoking gun that shows that he knew he was not telling the truth, because they would have to prove his state of mind if they could make these other cases.
Andy, do you think that they would have done this in such a high-profile way if they didn't know exactly which document or email they were trying to get their hands on? What's your take on that?
I think, Martha, that they've known since January that they had probable cause that there was mishandling of classified information. They've known that they've always had that in their pocket. So, you know, if you ask for a search warrant based on January 6th and you say, we expect to find the following X, Y, and Z things, and then you don't find them, then you as the prosecutor look like you're not in control of your investigation and that you're wrong about your bottom level assumptions. Whereas if you know that you've got a classified information violation, or at least that it's highly probable, and you get a warrant that lets the agents go in and search for that, if they find something relevant to January 6th, they can keep it anyway. So this is a way to get in there lawfully and do the kind of full-blown search that they'd otherwise like to do in connection with the Capitol riot.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go to the White House now. Karine Jean-Pierre is taking some questions. Andy, thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.